We're live. We are live. How are you doing? Thank you very much if you're watching this on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever you're watching. Thank you so much for joining us. So today I am joined with Harry Harrison. We're just going to have a little bit of a chat. And we're going to have a chat about his business, about his journey, maybe about his podcast, maybe about apprenticeships. We'll just see how and where the conversation takes us. So if you're watching and you want to put any comments, throw them down, put them into the comment section wherever you're watching. And Harry, thank you very much for joining us today. How are you getting on?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, it's a beautiful sunny day. I'm based here just south of Norwich, so it's very sunny, very lovely and warm. I've just sat outside and had a lovely cup of coffee and had a chill for 10 minutes, so it's all good. How are you?
I am good. I did kind of the same. I was out for a walk just before this. It was quite nice. Wasn't too sure whether to wear a coat. It's one of those kind of days at the moment. Not too sure if to wear a coat or not, but yeah, I'm happy. It's all good.
Good.
Yeah. Good. So, for people who don't know you, Harry, tell us a bit about yourself.
Oh gosh. So hi, I'm Harry. I'm how can I put myself as possibly a social entrepreneur that started in a very commercial background. So I'm from a very rural North Norfolk town. Not too far from the North Norfolk coast, which was very nice when I was younger and growing up. And I kind of came from a background where there wasn't particularly, excess money, which I look at as an advantage in some respects now, because it taught me how to earn my own. And that was kind of sparked really around about the time of when I was about 7, and realised all my mates were going off to watch my favourite football team, which I wasn't exposed to anybody quite yet. And we couldn't afford to do that, so I found my own way of doing it. And actually, from that point, I caught the bug, and I never really stopped after that.
Nice. So you've probably been around lots of different experiences and lots of different activities during that time. Do you fancy talking about maybe a couple of your favourite kind of highlights?
Gosh, how on earth do I pull that into a couple of highlights?
As soon as I said that, I thought you're going to struggle with this.
It's fine. I mean, I've been very fortunate, really. I've had lots of highlights. I suppose it's all stemmed from I just found I had a deep, and I'm going to use the word love. I know that's kind of a word we don't use, but I'm going to use that of people. I've always been curious and fascinated by people. People are fantastic on the whole. And even though I left school at a very young age, far younger than I should have actually left, for certain circumstances, at home, which, it's just, they happened. With no qualifications, found myself drifting in and out of manufacturing jobs, which was great within factories, mostly within food manufacturing. But one of the things I found is I actually got promoted fairly quickly. The reason being is I just had a real curiosity, and I wanted people to do the best they could do, and that was kind of recognised. And so I think some of the favourite things for me has been discovering what people can do and how good they are if you allow them to do what they really want to do. That's been a highlight. The other highlights are, going to university at 42, completely out of the blue. I went to visit a friend of mine one day. He did my business card. I used to do my business cards. At the time, we had an events company, and he used to do my business cards. And I went to see my good friend Andy one day, and I said to Andy, "What are you doing, Andy?" And there was paperwork everywhere across his kitchen. Like, what on earth are you doing, Andy? So I'm going to university. I went, "You're nuts, mate." And he went, "Well, the thing is you're coming with me." And I went, "No, I'm not. I'm not academic at all." So anyway, long story short, 3 months later, there I am, sitting in a classroom at university doing a business degree, and never regretted it for a second. 3 fantastic years. And really caught the bug as well for that kind of learning. We were still running 2 businesses. So myself and my wife were still running two businesses at the time. And weirdly, after my first year at university, she followed me. So there was 2 of us at the university at that point. We had 2 businesses that we were running. We had 4 children at home, 2 of which were at college, 2 of which were at school. I wouldn't suggest that to anybody. It was. We look back now, and it was lots of fun, but it was a challenge. Yeah. And after my time at university, I was kind of thinking, what am I going to do next? And then actually, I was asked to do my master's degree in entrepreneurial management after that. It was a new course they were running as an MSc. Yeah. And I did that, and it was just such a great course to go and do. And the thing is, I could apply it with the businesses we were running at the time, so it was kind of live, which is what led me really into later on. So I came out of there and spent some time with a company who were a government-backed business advisory company, and then from there I was approached by the most amazing man called Robert Ashton. So Robert is, and if you want to check Robert out, everybody, check out the Barefoot Entrepreneur. And Robert is one of the most amazing men I've ever met. A social entrepreneur and does amazing stuff in the truest sense of the word. And he started Swarm Apprenticeships about 3 years prior and said to me, look, you know, this is something that I think is going to tick all your boxes. Would you like to come and work with us? So I went to work with Swarm. Now, funny enough, when I was first shown the way that apprenticeships ran at that time, I wasn't particularly keen because it was a very kind of tick box framework, what they call frameworks. And then I was shown the new world of apprenticeships, which is very much application of knowledge. And that's what I'd come out of at university. So I'd got, you know, learned this knowledge, but I was in a position where I could apply it straight away. And that's where the new world of apprenticeships is. So I was like, go on, let's do it. And I'm still there as well as I'm a leadership coach, executive and leadership coach as well, which I bring about 30 years of leadership and management into as well. But it's that apprenticeship stuff. Yeah. It's
wow. So much to unpick.
Fun.
So much to unpick. But I want to echo what Jody is saying. How did you manage it all? You know, was there times during that kind of setting up period that you thought, wow, how are we dealing with all of this? Because that's a lot to take all at one go.
It's a blur, actually. Thanks, Jody and Gary. It's a blur. When we look back now, and myself and my wife often look back on that period and go, how did we manage that? Friday nights was wine night. That's really important. That used to be quite good. But it was just about being structured in some respects. You know, we were very fortunate in some respects that the school buses picked up outside our front door. That was a huge part because that took a lot of that away. But it's about really being structured. You know, the businesses, we did scale them back slightly. One of those was quite good because it was the event side of things was really around about weekends. So, you know, we would do 5 days at university pretty much, and then we would do some study work over the weekend, but we'd also work over the weekend. And one of those other businesses, allowed me to work when I wanted to work. So, you know, perhaps I'm over-egging it slightly, but we did have 2 businesses, 4 children. It was the fact that, you know, I think it was the 4 children, because one of the big things that we were very aware of is we didn't want to become so busy that we didn't have time for the children, which is why we set up those 2 businesses in the first place. They were never about money. We'd had other businesses that were very much about financial, you know, side of things. These 2 were set up because we wanted more time. So we probably had more time, and then our kind of mindset was we went and filled it with academic work. But we were very mindful that, you know, that's not what we wanted to do. And actually it did work quite well.
Nice. And you said that you were learning and then applying that straight away in real world kind of situations. Do you reckon if you didn't have that kind of link or that kind of application time as well as the learning, would you have been so successful in it?
In the academic side?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because you had that kind of link to it. You could actually test it out in real time.
Yeah, and you know, that's absolutely right. I mean, you know, I'm not an academic person. I love the knowledge base and I love the academic side and the theoretical knowledge that went behind that. And I really did. But it was great for me because you could recognize that within what you were doing and what I've been doing for, you know, many years prior to that. And it's a really interesting thing because people often say about going to university later, you know, kind of later in life. And I think with going to university later in life, actually, it's more fulfilling. You really, really want to be there. I mean, you really want to be there. And the tutors and the lecturers love the fact that you want to be there, which is really great. And you build a bond with those guys, actually, because, you know, they know that you've been around a little bit and you take it on board. But the other thing is, you know, you kind of, you have that knowledge and you can apply it in your head as you're learning it in some respects, and then you take it back home or you take it into your business and you start applying it for real. And it's great because the feedback that comes with the academic stuff is you go, well, actually this worked like this and this didn't work very well, and you've got some real time feedback for you. So, but it kind of works both ways. You know, the academia, you're into application, and application back into academia. Yeah,
I love it. And actually, I never went to university at the time when I can kind of make those decisions whether to go or not. I wasn't ready. I was going to just mess it all up. I wouldn't really focus on it. I didn't really have any clear direction at that time. But if I went now, that will be a completely different mindset. I'm a completely different person with completely different goals, completely different focuses. And if I'm going to apply my time to that particular activity, I'm going to make the most of it compared to the 18-year-old Gary who, frankly, didn't have a clue about that. So actually, what you say does resonate quite a bit. And I love the fact that we've kind of gone full circle now and talking about apprenticeships, because that really I can really see now why Swarm kind of really related to you and how you kind of gravitated to it. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, and there was already some fantastic people. So Robert had started Swarm Apprenticeships, and then he brought a gentleman called Chris Perry on board. Now Chris had been working with the chambers here in the chamber here in Norfolk, and Chris is he's one of those human dynamos. He's taken Swarm and driven it on again, and he does that on a daily basis. And the thing is we're a social enterprise, so the way I kind of describe it, I really dislike using the phrase "not for profit" because we like profit, we just use it in a different way. So but we attract people who follow our vision and the values that we have at Swarm, and that was brought in obviously by Robert. Then that's been moved on again by Chris, who has a real passion. He's another one like me. Chris has this real passion for people, and we want people to be treated well. So when we bring people into Swarm to work with us, nobody ever works for Swarm. We all work with each other, and we have this. So we have unlimited holiday. If you're ill, you're ill. If you can work from home, you can work from home. That was long before COVID. You're given the autonomy to bring in new ideas, and if you make a mistake at Swarm, you make a mistake. You're honest about it. We put it right, and then we look at how do we avoid doing that again. Nobody gets kicked for doing that, and we've been doing that, for a long, long time. And I'm really pleased to see that's actually now creeping into the workplace, certainly here in the UK, because it's about how you keep your your workforce engaged in that, and that's the real building blocks for Swarm Apprenticeships, because we've got that. I mean, we have some amazing people at Swarm, real people who are game changers in what we do and are passionate about what we do. We're always going above and beyond. And that's because we all believe in this kind of one, and that's why it was called Swarm, because it's about different parts coming together and moving in one direction as as separate pieces come together to make the whole. And it is, I mean, it's funny. I'm with you, Gary. I mean, at 18, going to university was just never on my radar. At 16, going to college was never on my radar, and I did come from a little bit of a background that. Was always told that I couldn't achieve and I was going nowhere, which was fine. And you believe it at that age. And it was, so when I went to university, it was a case of really proving to myself that I could do it. It wasn't about academia. It wasn't about qualifications. It was just proving to me that actually I could do it. And then when I was asked, to kind of move on to the, that master's degree, for me, it was the ultimate, because somebody had recognized that I had the ability to do that. And that was a huge turning point in my life. And I see that with apprentices. We bring that into apprentices. And so with apprenticeships now, it's for us at Swarm, and I can only speak about us at Swarm, really. Yeah, for us, it's really about the journey for that learner. So what's their journey look like? And it's a career journey. So sometimes with apprenticeships, it's the start of a journey. Or it could be because there's no age cap on apprenticeships anymore. So sometimes we get people like return to work mums, or somebody who's made a career, wants to make a career change. They've realized they've got so far and can't go any further and want to change things. And so it's the start of a new life. And that's what we concentrate with the learner. But the other thing, because most of us are from kind of business backgrounds at Swarm, is we look at it from the side of the employer as well. And therefore, how do we create impact and value from what that learner is bringing into that business, and that a lot of that, you're quite rightly, sprung from my my learnings going into the academic world, really.
And have you seen kind of the people's impressions and perceptions of apprenticeship changed since you started?
Well, 4 years. I'll be honest with you. I had this conversation yesterday with a bit of a think tank group that we were looking at apprenticeships, and no, in some respects, it's a shame, really. you know, I think it's changed slightly, and it is changing more and more. But we've still got this, especially with employers, have still got this perception, especially small employers, have still got this kind of perception about apprenticeships are for people who perhaps didn't want to go to college as they leave school, perhaps weren't academic, perhaps weren't as valued. I think is possibly the best way I could put it. Weren't as valued as much coming into the workforce, and that's so wrong. I mean, that is, they couldn't be more wrong, which is why, you know, really big entities, you know, big corporations, organizations have huge apprenticeship schemes because they realize the value of apprenticeships. And one of the things we've got to do, and it's really nice to have this kind of platform today to kind of speak about that, is, you know, the apprenticeship training is some of the best training I have seen. If you get the right training provider, the training can be exceptional. And the thing is not just training for the sake of training. It's actually training that then has to be applied. And then they have to prove at the end that they can apply it. You know, so it kind of monitors it all the way through.
Yeah.
But we still got this kind of slight stigma around apprenticeships, which we need to drop.
And that's why I asked that question, because when I was kind of looking at options back in the day, it was seen as, it was deemed as a little bit about it. Yeah, it was just deemed a little bit lower than going to university. It's not, you know, only a few people would do. It was normally trades at that time. So it was, if you're doing an apprenticeship, it would be a trade. So therefore, you'd be a mechanic, a joiner, that kind of stuff. That didn't interest me because I wasn't, and I still am, not very good with my hands in terms of DIY and that kind of stuff. But it's not about that now, is it? It is about getting the best kind of training product, best development product for that person. And then, as you said, real life application all the way through. And can you be an apprentice in any type of industry now, or is it still only a few industries that allow it?
No, and that's a really good point, Gary. Actually, it's so we don't touch any of the trades at Swarm. We run 24 apprenticeship courses. Not one is in a trade. So we run from business administration or administrator, as it is now, right the way through project management. We work with some very large entities across the UK on project management. We marketing, sales, you name it. All those kind of office areas are covered by apprenticeships. And once again, you're right that, you know, that's not recognised. People don't think that that's where apprenticeships sit, but they do, and they're immensely influential in careers and with businesses. And one of the things we are doing, the other thing that people don't realise is you can upskill your current workforce by using apprenticeship funding or government apprenticeship funding.
Okay.
One of the areas we've working at the moment with people within the offshore energy sector, and it may be the fact that they've got fantastic engineers, but actually their management they've got some succession planning to do with their management. So we've identified with them some of the engineers that need management training, and they're now on. Actually, some of them just completed distinctions, the level 5 ops and departmental manager apprenticeship. So that's what and these guys were all senior. You know, they're really good senior engineers who saw that there was a great way for them to learn management skills. And obviously, the company, the organisation themselves, have now got some fantastic managers there that have come through that system.
So it's not just about actually getting new people in. You can also retrain and improve your existing skills. That's brilliant. So while we're kind of talking about apprenticeships, and we've focused a lot on kind of what you can get out of it. But how easy is it to set up? If I'm a small business, what do I need to really kind of start to have in place for an apprentice to come in?
Oh, goodness me. Okay. There are some complexities around that, but nothing that we can't guide somebody all the way through. So first of all, you have to have a really good need for an apprentice. So it's something that you really want to do. And it's something that's valuable to use as a company. Now, it's really good at the moment with the current incentives that are coming in from the government, which we can cover, is the fact that it allows a small business who may have been on the. It normally happens with small business, doesn't it? You've had a bit of a growth spurt. You're on that cusp where I've got too much work for me, but can I afford to bring somebody else in? And apprenticeships are a really good way of doing that. Or, if you just want to grow your workforce, but you want people who come in who have got great training to provide with the training provider sits beside, so it helps with all the other side of things that you can have. So first of all, what you really need is that kind of solid base. That's an apprentice is what you want. Mm-hmm. And then we will sit down and go through, because we get this all the time. I've had this week already where somebody comes and says, I really want a project manager, apprentice coming in, and I kind of sat down. We'll do what's called a training scan, and actually by the time we'd finished looking through the job role and the sector they were in, all this, actually they needed a sales apprenticeship, so they needed a sales apprentice. So that's a big thing. So it's really then kind of identifying what you actually need, and then it's a case of once we've got that, we'll our admin staff will take over and guide the employer all the way through the system to make sure that they're kind of linked up with the government back office systems. And then our delivery team will swing into action. We'll make sure all the health and safety is done and all those kind of areas. So they're all ticked before that apprentice comes in. But, we work constantly. So we hold the hand of the employer and make sure that they know everything that's going on. Perfect. And that's the way that we kind of do it. There's a lot more complexity around there, but actually it's not that complex for the employer. It's more complex for us. Because we kind of take that on and help all the way through. Because, it is daunting sometimes, especially if you're taking perhaps your first, second or third employee on, and we're there to sit there and just kind of help and guide all the way through, which is nice for them.
Nice. So if someone wanted to find more info about apprenticeships and about how to get involved with them, both from maybe themselves and also from a business point of view, how can they?
You can go onto the government site. So there's the National Apprenticeship Service government site, and and you can actually call them, and they will give you a little bit of guidance. You can visit Swarm Apprenticeships, so swarmapprentice.org.uk. There's lots of information on there. You can call us at Swarm. I quite often get phoned just to have a chat, or one of the guys in the office will just have a chat and guide somebody through, even if they. If an apprentice is not for them, we're really happy just to guide them through the system. The other thing is sometimes, and I've had this twice this week again already, is where we've had, every now and again, a parent will phone and say, can you just explain apprenticeships to my son, daughter? And that's really great, because actually, once again, they may not have got the guidance that they would like to with an apprentice. And I think the great thing is whenever you talk to anybody, whether it's an employer or whether it's a possible apprentice, we have the ability to change lives. And I know that sounds quite dramatic. That is quite a dramatic thing to say, but it's really true. And we have lots of instances where we've had people who have been overlooked time and time again for positions, couldn't find employment, have gone into a company as an apprentice, and are now working their way through their career ladder. They're into middle management now. That makes our hearts sing when we see that, because that would not have happened. It probably wouldn't have happened without us helping to facilitate that. I'm not saying that we're the ones, we work with the employer and we work with the apprentice, but we've been a part of that journey for them, and that's what we do it for. At the end of the day, it's incredible.
Love it. And I know, because I've spoken to you kind of off camera and through different kind of channels, you've met some incredible people with some incredible stories all the way through kind of your journey, and we're actually starting to. Well, I know you're looking to start, and you will be starting a podcast very soon to kind of document them. Do you just want to kind of tell us a little bit about the podcast, what it's all about, and how kind of those stories can help people watching today?
Well, once again, I've had this curiosity for people all my life, and I've met through my business journey, really, some incredible people. Off the top of my head, Bevis Moen last week, who was part of a course I was on, and Bevis is Magenta Coaching. What an incredible guy. Paul Ward, Solace Coaching. Paul's been a good friend of mine for a long time now. We've run networking events together. Those guys are incredible. I've met people all the way through from when I first came into business. A guy called David Bignell he was a retail advisor. We had a retail store as a family. What an amazing man he was, and Robert Ashton, Chris Perry. I could just keep going. I really could keep going. I mean, we could fill a 5-hour show with the incredible people I've met. But a big part of me was I was on a common purpose leadership program, environment for environmental leaders globally. There was about 80 environmental leaders on there, and it was an absolute privilege to be a part of that program last year. And I bumped into some people that kind of expand you again. An amazing gentleman called Kodzo that I think I may have spoken to you, who is based in Ghana, works for a Newcastle-based charity actually, and he helps startup enterprises in Africa and South America. And he was tasked during the pandemic to help coffee growers in the Peruvian jungle who have been troubled by greenworm, which is attacking coffee crops. And the Peruvian government are now banning pesticides, which as an environmentalist I am, is fantastic. However, obviously that's going to cause these guys a problem. But they've been working with other people, and there's a certain fungi that deters greenworms. So he was tasked in the middle of a pandemic of getting a team into the Peruvian jungle to work and to help these coffee growers. And we went on a bit of a journey with him as a group. So we worked with him as a peer group. I mean, he sorted it out himself in the end. I mean, we were just there to kind of let him bounce ideas off, and he achieved that. And I also learned later after that he'd helped ladies in Ghana to set up beekeeping. So they were setting up beekeeping businesses. Now that's really because I'm a very amateur beekeeper. I love my bees, although I am carrying a sting this morning from a couple of days ago. But I love them, but they don't always like me. But that's my fault for poking my nose in their hive. But it's and that story was just another stunning story. And then there were the guys from Colombia who are working in Namibia, reintroducing cheetahs into Namibia and helping. Actually, they're now moved into their own social enterprise there, which is helping farmers reduce their reliance on cattle, which is kind of affecting big parts of Namibia landscape, and also protecting cheetahs and lions. Now, when you start working with people like that, and and Moreau, who's a marine biologist, and was telling me about how his work in the Mediterranean, and Liz, who's in a big third sector think tank down in London. When you start connecting with these guys and you start sharing those experiences, and we've talked about collaboration before, and I'll get slightly excited, so I'm going to calm down a little bit when it comes to collaboration. I love collaboration. I will work with people across sector, in my sector. It doesn't matter. It's about the end result at the end of the day. And we have skills that other training providers don't have. Other training providers have skills that we don't have. We have skills across the globe that we can tap into, and people are really good at doing that. And also, kind of working across those boundaries. One of the big things we did with Common Purpose was looking at collaboration, but also working across boundaries. So even areas where you don't have authority as a leader, how do you work and work with those guys? And Common Purpose is another. If anybody wants to check out Common Purpose as an organization to do leadership, to work on leadership programs, yeah, go and do that, because that is part of a life well lived when you meet those. Yeah,
love it. So podcast, what's it called, and when is the first episode going to be out? Put you on the spot.
Put me on the spot. It's going to be launching. Where are we now? April. I keep forgetting which month we're in. It should hopefully launch at the end of May. It's going to be called the Leadership Gardener, which is kind of my executive and leadership coaching area, because I believe that we should grow leaders, and leaders should be allowed to grow, rather than we see a lot of accidental managers and leaders, which is not their fault. It's just the way it works. But it's about and it's about sharing those stories of Kodzo and Liz and the guys, to show that leadership can make a difference anywhere. And it's about how you do that, and it's about the passion that lies behind that, and how you grow that leadership. When a lot of those guys don't even realize they're leaders until you kind of pull it apart slightly. So yeah, I'm really excited to be launching that.
Love it. Now, I just want to finish off by saying thank you very much for your time today. I know you're really busy, and when Harry says about his bees and he loves his bees, every conversation we have pretty much starts with his latest bee sting. So it is dead true. But before we go, I just want to ask you two last bits. First of all, where can people kind of connect with you on social and websites and that kind of stuff? So fire with that first, and then we'll finish off with the last one.
Okay, the best way to contact me, LinkedIn's really good, but you can find me at Harry Harris on LinkedIn. Also Swarm, so if you contact me through any of the Swarm, and we're on all social media channels at Swarm Apprenticeship or Swarm B, believe it or not. Swarm B is kind of another side to us. That's going to be a new commercial training arm that we're bringing in, and that also deals with recruitment, because we deal with recruitment in very much the same way as we deal with apprenticeships. It's got to be about value and impact. So that's a new side that we launched. Other than that, LinkedIn with Harry Harris at LinkedIn is a really good one to contact me.
It is, and I asked everybody on my podcast this. I'm going to ask you this as well. If you're going to kind of recommend one thing for someone to start doing based on your experiences today, what would that one thing be?
Get somebody to sit beside you on your journey. Get somebody you trust who knows what they're doing, but will allow you to do it yourself, and will just sit beside you on your journey. Whether you call that a mentor, a coach, a friend, it doesn't matter what you call it. But if you have, especially if you're starting out, it's probably the most valuable piece of advice I could give to anybody, is just have that person you can rely on.
And on that note, I think we should finish it there. Thank you very, very, very much, as I said, for your time. And if you're watching this live or on the replay, still put your comments below, still ask any questions. I'll check the comments and I'll throw them over to Harry. I'll link him into the chat. But thank you very much for your time. And please, let's carry on this conversation. See you again, folks.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.